Welcome to your bye-week edition of Alabama Head-to-Head. I'm Lauren Sisler. This is Kevin Scarbinsky, and we're going to go down the list. We want to do a mid-season review here. We're 8 weeks into the season. We have 1 month of football left after this bye week in the regular season. And Kevin, we'll start with the offense. Who is your offensive MVP? Who stands out to you most with this class and this group of guys?
Well, they're getting contributions, obviously, from a lot of people, but it all starts at the quarterback position. And just to squash the idea that there is any kind of quarterback controversy, which people are always looking for some reason, Jalen Hurts, to me, has to be your MVP because he's the guy who makes it all go. Yeah, he hasn't been great in the passing game. His numbers have improved in many different areas in that regard, and that's something they have to improve going forward. But he's still he's the guy that drives the bus, drives the engine, and he just seems more poised. I think he makes better decisions on when to pull the ball, when to stay in the pocket, and I like his progression. And yeah, Tua did some nice things, especially against Tennessee, but you have a starting quarterback at Alabama, and you have a backup quarterback at Alabama, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
And I like that Jalen Hurts is starting to come out of his shell a little bit more. We didn't get to talk to him much last year as a freshman, of course, but we've seen him have a little bit more fun with the media, giving us a glimpse into his life a little bit more, not having to shield up so much.
He became a member of the media.
Yes, he did. It
was asking some questions.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. So
cool.
Asking questions to Damian Harris, that's going to be my offensive MVP. Damian Harris quietly rushed to 1,000 yards last year. This year he's already at 697 rushing yards, averaging 9 yards per carry. That is impressive. And again, this is sort of your quiet hero. You're hearing more about him this season. And of course, I think it helps that he doesn't have honey buns chasing him down the field now. That's the big storyline. He gave up honey buns over the summer, and so we're starting to see him really attack and pick up that yardage. And one thing that we found out over the weekend, which is really cool, AL.com did this thing with the training staff over the summer about this GPS system that tracks them, the catapult system. Well, what we found out in those two 75-yard touchdowns that Damian Harris had against Arkansas and Texas A&M, he topped out at 23 miles per hour. That is fast, 23 miles per hour. There was one guy that did 25 over the summer, but 23 miles per hour, he's an outstanding athlete. Let's go over to the defensive side of the football. Who is your defensive MVP now 8 weeks into the season?
Again, a lot of guys are making plays. A lot of guys are contributing, but the one constant is Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's not only, to me, the best player on that defense, he's probably the best player on that team, and he's one of the best players in college football. He is the quarterback of the defense. No matter how many linebackers have gotten hurt, no matter how many true freshmen have lost their red shirts and had to step up, Minkah is always there. You rarely see them get beat for a big play. You rarely see them get off track. He just makes the calls. He gets people in the right positions, and then he makes plays himself. I just think he's about as good as it gets anywhere in college football at any position.
And I'm going to go with Levi Wallace. Great pick in Minkah as well. Levi Wallace just has a tremendous story. One of those stories that really warms your heart. He comes into the team, was getting no looks from D1. Nick Saban obviously brings him onto the football team, gives him that chance, takes a chance on him, and last fall he ends up earning a scholarship after being a walk-on his first couple of years. And then, something else that's pretty impressive, he's overcome a lot. He's now been co-defensive player of the week now twice this season, this week, and then of course against Ole Miss following that week. But, lost his father early in his college career to ALS, his father a military man, and so certainly a great story there. And this is just a guy that's really stepped up and owned his position despite being a walk-on. He said, you know what, I don't care that I'm not a five-star like these other guys. I'm going to step up and play my role no matter what it takes, and he's obviously earned that. So let's move down the list here. What do we think Alabama needs the most work on? We're 8 weeks into the season, number one team in the country. If there's something to pick apart, what is it?
You have to look really hard because they beat their first 5 SEC opponents by 200 points, which, according to the SEC Network, which you know well, is a record in the conference.
Right.
That is astounding. To drub teams the way they are. Texas A&M, the only game that was remotely close in the league or out of the league so far. I guess the Florida State game was close for a while until the quarterback got hurt late. So, yeah, you're getting so many things going right, so many people playing well. But if there's one area that we still, I think, need to see some improvement in, it's the passing game.
Okay.
Because at some point, look, they are just running over everyone. The offensive line, which is unsung, a bunch of unsung heroes there, is getting the job done. Damian Harris, as you mentioned, breaking off big runs. Bo Scarborough hasn't really broken out yet, except on those 4th and goal plays.
Right.
He's money there, Bo, over the top. Sorry, Auburn fans. But the passing game, at some point, they're going to meet a defense. Maybe it's against LSU. Maybe it's farther down the road. They're going to meet a defense that's going to load the box and not let them run wild. And then can Jalen Hurts, Calvin Ridley, and company step up and make plays in the passing game, not when they want to, but when they have to.
I think that's a great point there. And another area that I really think this Alabama team needs to work on, the muffed punts. Obviously, that's something that Nick Saban up in arms about. You have 5 balls on the ground in the last 2 games from these guys. You got Henry Ruggs III that put a ball on the ground, Trayvon Diggs, Xavier Mark. So I think this is something, they rank 11th in the SEC right now through this point in the season, averaging 7.33 yards per return, which ranks 11th in the conference, but they've also got the higher number of punt returns. So you do the math, it doesn't work out. So these guys got to really start taking care of the football. So that's one big area I see for this team, and that's something that Nick Saban, we're going to be working on that this bye week. And of course, getting healthy. That's another area of concern when you're 8 weeks into the season. Let's take a look at the remaining schedule here. Their next game, November 4th against LSU. Who are you taking in this one? Who has the upper hand?
Well, and we'll have a more precise, specific prediction next week.
We'll keep this short and sweet.
But obviously Alabama has the edge. But they will face Alabama-like athletes in the LSU game, and more of them than they have probably in any game since the Florida State game. LSU has recruited well. They haven't translated that into results on the field in recent years in terms of really competing for championships, but they're feeling good about themselves. They're on a bye week this week also. They've won a couple of games. They took care of Ole Miss, that big comeback against Auburn. So LSU's feeling really good, but you still have to like Alabama. But let's remember last year, it was 0-0 going into the 4th quarter in Baton Rouge until Jalen Hurts stepped up and made a big play with his feet.
That's right. That's a good point there. I do think that Alabama will obviously be favored in this one substantially, but LSU is getting up. They get the big win over Auburn. They've obviously, a lot of doubters out there early in the season, losing to Troy, losing to Mississippi State the way they did, but their confidence is going to play into this. But they come to Bryant-Denny Stadium, and Alabama has all the weapons in the world. So I think that, them coming off a bye week, Alabama will be well rested and hopefully ready for this one. Mississippi State, I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. November 11th, Mississippi State, has kind of done this a little bit this season. I think their confidence is starting to come back, and we're starting to see a little bit more, productivity from Nick Fitzgerald and company. And of course, they go to Mississippi State, Starkville, Cow Country. We know what that's like.
Is that what a cowbell sounds like?
That's got a silencer on it.
I think you need to work on your sound effects. Look, that is a great atmosphere there. I love going to games in Starkville. It's one of the best places to watch a football game in the SEC. I know it's not as big, but it's just as loud as the 100,000-seat Palaces. And they have been good at times. They were really good against LSU. They were really good against Kentucky. Nick Fitzgerald, we know he's capable. Dan Mullen, one of those coaches who has yet to beat Nick Saban. This doesn't look like the team he's going to do it with.
Yeah, don't know if that's a sleeper. Okay, of course, we'll just leave November 18th, Mercer off the list, and we'll proceed to the Iron Bowl. When you look at overall the landscape, Auburn showing some improvement. Obviously, they've had a little bit of ups and downs here. Health a concern for them. But overall, what kind of matchup are we looking at for this Iron Bowl?
Well, I said
Not
in August.
Not the grandmother, the mother of the brother of the...
No, we can't go there. Auburn losing to LSU ended the chance that we could have another mother of all Iron Bowls as we had in 2013. So that's off the table. However, there's still a chance it could be the SEC West Championship game, depending on how things play out. Auburn, I said this in August, and I'm not going to change. Auburn has the pieces to compete with Alabama.
It's all about that execution, right?
It has the pieces. Does it have the coaching, especially on the offensive side of the ball? I know it does on defense. Does it have the coaching on the offensive side of the ball? Can they be creative? Can they, if they get an early lead, can they not go into a shell as they did in Baton Rouge and continue to try to pour it on as they did at Arkansas? That was a positive sign for the Auburn offense. I don't know. We'll see. But Auburn is capable. But Auburn has to show, which they haven't done in recent years, that they can play big against another big boy. And
personally, I think how they perform against Georgia is going to be an indicator of how well they play against Alabama. If they can go in there and beat Georgia, I guess November 14th is when they get Georgia, or November 11th, I should say. November 11th, if Auburn can beat Georgia in that game, I think that changes the confidence level, putting those pieces together. It gives them that much more ammunition to come out there and win that Iron Bowl. So it'll be very interesting to see this last month of November. And of course, you get the weekend off. I know you're pretty excited about that.
It's Halloween.
Woo!